Hello, everybody. It's Rabbi Stephen, Rob Shmuel ben Yoshua, yes, Rashbi in the walled city. And we'll get to that in a minute. Why the walled city? Because the holiday coming up is, you guessed it, Purim. Now, Purim, the Megillah of Esther, Megillah means scroll, is read on Monday evening. And Purim would be Tuesday, the 14th of Adar. And Shushan Purim is the 15th of Adar. Now, what's the difference? Well, first of all, Shushan was the city in Persia where all this happened. And if you live in Shushan, or if you live in Jerusalem, which is also a walled city, then you observe Purim on the 15th of the month. And that's because it was done in Shushan and it's to honor all walled cities. The rest of us outside in the diaspora or outside of those cities do it on the 14th. It's kind of a distinction. So we know that Purim, for us out here in the diaspora, is observed on the 14th of Adar, which coincides with the 10th of March. And of course, since Jewish holidays begin in the evening, there was morning, first day. We read the Megillah in the evening of Monday evening, and we could also read it Tuesday morning. Synagogues do that as well. So it's done, as I said, in the month of Adar. Now, as we know, the Jewish calendar has leap years, just like the secular calendar does. 2020 is divisible by 4, so we add the extra day, and this year there was February 29th, which we have every 4 years. In the Jewish calendar, for every 7 years in 19, it's every second or third year, depending on how the math works out, we add an extra month. Why a month? Because the Hebrew calendar is a lunar calendar. Months only have 29 or 30 days. And by the way, Rosh Chodesh, the beginning of the month, is celebrated on the beginning of the month. If it's a 30-day month, then it's 2 days. If it's a 29-day month, then the last month was 29 days. We only do it for 1 day, and that's the difference. So that extra month that we add on those leap years is Adar 2. When is Purim observed? When there's 2 Adars. Now, some people might be inclined to think, on the first Adar. Adar is Adar, right? Wrong. The halacha is that Purim is always observed 30 days before, you guessed it, Passover. So, in years when it's a leap year and we add the extra month of Adar, Purim is observed in Adar 2, the month of Adar 2, the second Adar. All right? So, what is Purim? Purim comes from the Persian word or the Akkadian word, pur, which means lots. And this was in a time when there was a monarchy, and the king ruled all, and we know the king Ahasuerus. Some people think that Ahasuerus was King Xerxes. Was having a party with his, whatever they were there, his ministers or the high-ups in the court. And they were getting a little drunk, and he calls for his wife. He wants to show his wife Vashti off. And Vashti was having a similar party with her girlfriends, and the harem didn't want to come. So the minister said, not only does this not make you look good, that your wife's disobeying you, it also makes all the men of Persia look bad, because now their wives are going to think, wow, the queen disobeyed her husband. Why should we come when you snap your fingers? So Vashti is now out of the picture. Use your imagination. I'm not going to go further than that. Now the king needs a new queen. So he's got a harem. He decides to have a beauty contest. Mordecai, a Jew, and by the way, he wasn't really a Jew. He was a Benjaminite. Remember, Jews are Judeans. We're from the tribe of Judah. And actually, when the Jews were exiled after the destruction of the first temple, there was actually 3 or 4 tribes left. There was the Levites, which we know, the priests and the ministers. There was the tribe of Judah, which was mostly in the south, but there was also the tribe of Benjamin was there too. And Mordecai and Esther were from, or Mordecai and Hadassah, that was her real name, were from the tribe of Benjamin. And it even says in the Megillah, Mordecai a Benjaminite. So as in the portion of Tetzaveh, Moshe Rabbeinu, his name wasn't mentioned. God's name wasn't mentioned in the Magilla or scroll of Esther, because it's taken for granted that God was hiding behind the scenes, or he was acting behind the scenes. So Mordecai used to hang out by the gates of the city. He overheard 2 people plotting against the king, brought it attention to one of the guards, who brought it attention to his commander, who brought it attention to the king. The 2 conspirators were found out, and they were hanged. And somehow Mordecai's name got lost in the flow there. So So King Ahasuerus needs a new queen, and they have a beauty contest. And Mordecai says to his niece Hadassah, "Why don't you do it? You're beautiful, you're gorgeous. This is kind of our in too." So in a way, she was kind of like a spy, like a double agent, if you will. So she used the name Esther. She competes, and the king sees her and decides this is going to be my new queen. In the meantime, he elevates one of his satraps, Haman. Don't get the groggers out; we're not there yet. To be the prime minister. And Haman, of course, had this big celebration. He's parading through the streets, and Mordecai doesn't bow down to him. Now here's kind of an interesting factoid. If you are in a court of a king, or if you're in the Himalayas and you're doing yoga and you want to bow to your teacher like that, no problem. That's okay because it's a sign of respect. But if that particular person says, "I'm God, you need to bow down to me," then we don't, because that's worshiping an idol. That's a pagan worship. See, so there's the difference. You can bow out of respect. I do it sometimes to people, but you don't bow down to someone who thinks they're a god. Then you're worshiping them. And Mordecai refused to bow down to Haman, who thought he was a god. And Haman sees that Mordecai is who he was, finds out about him, finds out he's a Jew, and here it starts, right? Let's get rid of all the Jews. They don't respect us. Okay? Meanwhile, Esther is working behind the scenes, and Mordecai tells her about it. And after getting in good with the king, and the king really likes her, she fasts for 3 days. She has we all know the story. She has a feast. She invites Haman. She sets him up. She exposes him and brings it to the attention of the king that it was really Mordecai that uncovered the conspiracy, and that's why he's alive. So the point of the Purim is this, okay? Haman had gone to the king and said, "I want to kill all the Jews that were disrespectful to me." And the king's like, "Yeah, go ahead. I'll give you a seal," and that's it. And it's sealed. And Haman decides he has a little fun with it. He says, "When we're going to do it? Well, we'll pull lots and decide which day." So he has all the years of the days of the year out there, pulls a lot, and he comes to what we call now the 15th of Adar. And that's when he's going to kill the Jews. Now, after all this is uncovered, the king says, "Look, I gave him my word. I took my signet ring. I said he could destroy the Jews. I really can't go back on the word. But here's what I am going to do. I'm going to let you Jews defend yourself. Use whatever means you can to defend yourself." And the Jews got together. Mordecai rallied the Jews, and they got together. They defeated Haman. They hung Haman and his sons on the same gallows that was meant for Mordecai. And there was rejoicing in the town of Shushan. And that's basically the story of Purim. So we read it. The kids love this holiday because they get to do what kids love to do, which is make noise. And the idea is, as we're reading through the Magilla of Esther, when we come to the name Haman, and we like to play around with it, sometimes do it in English and Hebrew, and we like to do it in Hebrew so the kids are like really listening for that. And Haman, and they wear the groggers, or they make noise, or they stomp their feet. Now, I'll close with this. Back in the Middle Ages, let's call them the Dark Ages, when Jews were not allowed to be Jews. This is how the whole idea of a Haftorah started. We weren't allowed to read the Torah under pain of death. So what the sages did was they found another passage from the prophets that kind of had the same theme or talked about the same what that particular portion was, and they read that instead, understanding that they're doing that as kind of a representative of what that parsha was. So what the Jews would do, okay, during those ages when the king's men were coming around, making sure that Jews weren't observing Judaism, and they'd listen for all the noise that was being made for Purim. So what they would do is they would take their shoe, they would write the word Haman on their shoe, and when they came to the word Haman on the Magilla, they would rub out their shoe, and they would rub the chalk off of their shoe, and that's how they observed Magilla. So let us rejoice in our freedom, that we live in a country, we live in a world where we can make the noise and we can have an observation. And by the way, you're supposed to get so drunk on Purim that you can't tell after a while the difference between Mordecai and Haman. Just from personal experience, I tried that once and it didn't work out very well, so be easy with it. Okay, so happy Purim and enjoy your holiday.